early 2022. Just when the war had begun, the world watched Russian President Vladimir Putin declare that Ukraine was run by a gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis.
I appeal to the servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine once again. Don't let neo-Nazis and Banderites use your children, your wives, and elderly as human shields. Take power into your own hands. It seems that it will be easier for us to come to an agreement than with this gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis who settled in Kyiv and took the entire Ukrainian people hostage.
The message was unmistakable. This was not supposed to be a war. It was supposed to be an execution. Kyiv would fall. Ukraine would surrender. Russia would redraw the map of Europe in days. But fast forward 4 brutal years to May 2026. And suddenly the tone coming out of Moscow sounds very different.
There wasn't really a specific message there, but I simply heard again that the Ukrainian side, Mr. Zelensky, is ready to hold a personal meeting. Well, I heard that. But we're not hearing this for the first time. What can I say in this regard? We've never refused, and I haven't refused. I'm not proposing this meeting, but if someone does, please let whoever wants to meet come. Let them come to Moscow and we'll meet. We could meet in a third country, but only after final agreements have been reached on a peace treaty, which should be designed for a long-term historical perspective.
The same Kremlin that once mocked Ukraine's leadership is now carefully referring to Volodymyr Zelensky as Mr. Zelensky. The same Putin who promised total victory is now openly saying the war is coming to an end.
They, the West, promised assistance to Ukraine and began to escalate the confrontation with Russia, which continues to this day. I think the matter is coming to an end, but it's still a serious matter.
A rare US-mediated ceasefire is now on the table. A massive 2,000-person prisoner swap is underway. And the biggest question in geopolitics right now is simple. What changed? Because strong men don't suddenly become reasonable. Leaders like Putin do not soften their language out of kindness. Something broke. And the answer lies in 3 devastating words: bleeding, burning, bankrupting. Russia expected a lightning victory. Instead, it walked into a war of attrition that has consumed an entire generation. According to Ukraine's May 2026 military estimates, Russian combat casualties have crossed 1.34 million personnel, nearly 12,000 tanks destroyed, more than 41,000 artillery systems wiped out. For 4 years, Russia kept throwing men and machines into the battlefield, and for 4 years, the battlefield kept swallowing them whole. The army that was supposed to overpower Europe's second-largest country is now exhausted by it. Ukraine struck Russia's real weakness. But the biggest damage may not have happened on the front lines. It happened deep inside Russia itself. Because modern wars are not powered by patriotism. They are powered by oil. And in 2026, Ukraine began systematically targeting Russia's energy infrastructure. Drone strikes hit refineries, export terminals and fuel depots across the country. The Tuapse refinery on the Black Sea was struck 4 times in 2 weeks. Massive fires erupted. Toxic smoke covered nearby cities. Residents described black rain falling from the sky. Meanwhile, major oil terminals like Ust-Luga and Novorossiysk suffered repeated disruptions. The financial losses reportedly crossed billions of dollars within weeks. Russia's war machine was bleeding money. Its economic engine was literally on fire. The Kremlin under pressure. And eventually, the cracks became impossible to hide. Victory Day in Moscow, once Russia's grand military spectacle, looked dramatically diminished in 2026. The parade was scaled back. Security fears dominated the capital. Major military hardware was largely absent. That absence mattered, because many of those tanks no longer existed. Inside Russia, citizens faced blackouts, drone alerts, and growing disruptions tied to the war. At the same time, NATO kept building the pressure. Western weapons kept flowing into Ukraine, and sanctions kept tightening around Moscow's economy. The Kremlin was suddenly facing a dangerous reality. A depleted army, a vulnerable energy sector, and a war growing more expensive by the month. However, this is not a sudden change of heart from Vladimir Putin. This is a change in mathematics. The invasion that was supposed to last days has lasted more than 4 years. The war that was meant to expand Russian power has instead drained Russia militarily, economically, and politically. That is why the rhetoric changed. Not because Moscow achieved its objectives, but because reality finally caught up with the Kremlin. And after 4 years of war, Russia may be confronting the one thing it never expected: the possibility that it simply cannot afford to keep fighting.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.